So we have a Syrah and a Cabernet here. In which order would you like me to taste these?
Probably the Syrah, I would say,
Okay.
especially
Yeah,
for 2020.
that's what I've got here. Now this is, this is the 2019.
Oh, 2019.
Yeah.
Okay. The Firs.
Yes. Oh, that's how you, okay. What's the story behind this vineyard here?
So the Firs is actually, we've got a grower that grows a few things for us. The Pinot Gris, we do a skin contact Pinot Gris. And it's a grower I've worked with a lot in previous lives and previous jobs. Phenomenal guy. He rents a few farms and farms exceptionally well. But the Firs, where this comes from, is his home farm where he lives. Oh. And it's in a little region called Devon Valley, which is one of the wards or the small sub-regions of Stellenbosch. And it's actually it's an outlier from the rest of our wines geologically. So everything else we do is on decomposed granite and sand, whereas this wine is on these grapes from a completely different soil, basically the antithesis. So the granite being very, I guess, weak, non-vigorous, which is great for a lot of things. Yeah. But this Syrah is basically from this very sort of dark clay, iron-rich, very vigorous clay, like this beautiful soil. But it's also at the same time something a lot of people don't particularly, think of Syrah being on clay, because the Syrah as a grape is a very vigorous grape. It grows very quickly, and when you put it in the soil, it grows even quicker. So in the vineyard, we actually add more spurs and more canes per vine, just to control the vigor. But the reason we kind of love this vineyard is, Syrah, we love it at this sort of 12.5% alcohol level. But what we love about this soil is it gives you this, what we feel, there's lovely texture and this sort of power from the soil without having to be 14-15%. So it gives us like real energy and denseness to the wine without it losing its vitality and freshness from being picked a little bit earlier.
This is, when I was tasting this last night, that was one of the things that I thought was astonishing, is at that lower alcohol level, this does still feel like a powerful wine. I mean, the aromatic profile alone that's gorgeous Syrah fruit. But then on the palate, there's that wonderful texture, that wonderful weight, without being like too heady with the alcohol.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Syrah is one of these things. I grew up in Adelaide drinking Barossa Shiraz, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
And when Janine and I met, we used to love drinking 15% alcohol Shiraz. It was kind of
I've had days like that too.
Yeah, but like, I guess from traveling and working, we kind of figured out that was what we didn't like, actually.
Right.
It's like, and I think it was just a matter of we'd never been exposed to Syrah made in this way, or Shiraz, or whatever you want to call it. And then when we were exposed to that, it's like, hang on, this is our favorite grape and it can be made in an even better style. So, for us being in a warm climate, going back to the whole, we've got plenty of sunshine, we're going to have flavor. Syrah, I think, is one of the most malleable, adaptable, chameleon-like grapes. It can grow anywhere. It's an incredible grape. So it's like, let's try and make it at a lower alcohol. And some years it's 11.5, some years it's 12%. It's even less than 12.5. But it just gives that really sort of dark, olivey, tapenade,
exactly
delightful fruit.
Yeah.
So in the winemaking for this, we are firm believers in whole cluster fermentation. So we do everything's 100% whole cluster. I think that just sort of adds to the savouriness. It keeps that real primary fruit in check. It just sort of, it makes it a bit more of a restrained, nuanced Syrah rather than the big blockbuster.
Yeah, it's very kind of defined and without, it's in no way clumsy at all. It has real elegance for a South African Syrah, for sure, in my mind. Most enjoyable. When I do these tastings with winemakers and I don't like a wine, I do actually tell them. I don't just like tell them their wines are fantastic.
I'm sure you do.
No, that's great. That was the one that I was last night. The other wines have opened up a bit, but last night this was incredibly expressive straight out the bottle.
Yeah, that 19 first rise, I still think one of the better ones we've made. I think
Right.
19 was a great vintage, and particularly for Syrah. And I just think it was, it really worked. Everything worked in our favor that year. Yeah.
Moving on finally to the Cabernet Sauvignon. This is 2019. This comes from the more western side of Stellenbosch, right? This particular vineyard.
It actually it's from Caribbean. It's from the same farm as the Chenin.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, which is westerly. So it's one of the most western farms in Stellenbosch, correct?
Right. I see. So tell us the story behind this wine.
Cabernet. This is an interesting one. I mean, Cabernet and Stellenbosch are obviously quite well known.
Yeah, of course.
And I guess Janine and I, we love the flavors of Cabernet at the core. But I guess we've both worked for places, and I've dealt with a lot of different Cabernet vineyards in Stellenbosch, and it never really felt, or I'd never worked with a vineyard that, or neither of us had, that could fit kind of what we're doing with Craven, a bit more, I hate saying lower alcohol because that's not what we're trying to do, but a bit more sort of brighter, fresher, precise wines rather than blockbuster wines. The grapes I've always worked with Cabernet wise have been from probably soils that, dictate to the point where you need to pick them a bit riper. Otherwise, they're going to be pretty green and pretty sort of harsh. And this was literally an experiment. So in 2018, so this is quite a young bottling or new bottling for us. We were picking our Chenin Blanc at Caribbean, so like early February, let's say. And then there's this great Cabernet vineyard next door, literally next door to the Chenin. And we just jumped down there. The grapes are 3 varieties on there, red and everything. Obviously, Cabernet being a bit later ripening. And we just tasted the grapes themselves, and the grapes tasted like delicious. There was no greenness. They tasted lovely red fruit. And we're like, this is bizarre. So we took a sample just for fun, and the sugar was, I think, 21 bricks, which is the equivalent of 12% alcohol. And we're like, this makes no sense to us at all. Like, the grapes should taste green and a bit weird by now. And so we just said to the farmer, look, do you mind if we pick 1 ton of grapes next week for fun? And he kind of laughed at us. And we're like, no, we're dead serious. We just want to take a ton of fruit and just see if it works. Yeah. Like a kind of an eological experiment. And he laughed and he said, of course, like, let's do it. It could be really fun. So next week, I think the grapes are like 21.5 bricks or something like that. So we picked them, and then we decided, let's do something even more stupid, and let's do 100% whole cluster or whole bunch, just to really see how green we can make this wine. But, if it works, it worked. And then lo and behold, after 5 or 6 days on skins, it just tasted delicious. It was 100% whole cluster. So we pressed it off. It was still a little sweet. So we generally pressed the Cabernet off, not at full dryness, because the whole cluster in Cabernet, I think you can start to get a bit of bitterness and greenness
from the stems.
If you leave it too long. So we pressed it off and finished it in tank, and it kind of hit all the, ticked all the boxes for us. It was still inherently Cabernet, lovely flavors. It kind of fit in with what we're doing, and we could make this Cabernet that, to be honest, is what Cabernet used to be like 20 years ago here in a sense. Cabernet here was 12.5%. It was this style in a way, and it's like, well, let's carry on making it. And it just felt nice much to the angst of probably some people making Stellenbosch Cabernet. It's like, it was nice to be making Cabernet from Stellenbosch, and it kind of didn't detract from what we were doing.
So would you say this vineyard site was a bit of an anomaly when it comes to that kind of phenolic ripeness that you're getting at those sugar levels?
I think, I guess, I'm sure there's plenty of other vineyards that could do it. But yeah, this is the first one that I felt it could probably work. We haven't really experimented with any others, but maybe it is grown on these granitic soils. That does help. I'm not sure. Most of the, I guess, the premium Cabernet in this country is grown more on soil like our Syrah, and that real sort of clay, heavy, rich, up on the mountains, on the Simmonsberg and the Helderberg mountains. So maybe they do need that longer sort of hang time to sort of balance themselves out. I'm not really sure, but at the end of the day, it was. We felt we made a nice cab for people that don't want to get punched in the face. And we get to work with a great grower. And I mean, that's just what we're all about. So when we've refined it a little bit over the years, so 2019 was 100% whole cluster. And then 2020 and 2021, I think, we've backed off a little bit of the whole cluster. So it's about 80% now. Okay. And it's not anything to do with the character of the whole bunch. It's more the fermentation sort of kinetics. We just wanted a bit more juice for the ferment to get going a bit quicker. That was the only reason we destemmed a little bit, but it's still predominantly whole cluster fermentation.
And you say, you're kind of hands off, but watching it carefully with these wines. So there's no like jiggery pokery tannin management or anything. It's basically just expressing the vineyard, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we obviously do punch downs and we pop over. But there's none of that. I wouldn't even know where to start with those chemical things. I mean, that just seems confusing to me. Yes. I think it's a stupid cliche, but if you got good grapes, I think you can figure it out,
You can also bugger it up quite easily, no matter how good grapes are. Yeah. It's a really delightful range of wines. I'm not usually supposed to be drinking during the week right now, but I'm going to be hitting these wines later tonight, that's for sure.
Great.
It would be remiss of me not to ask you about your current situation regarding the pandemic and the like. How are things down there?
Where does one even start? I can't believe it's been 2 years now. It's crazy. I don't know. Look, Africa's a very different place. You just got to keep on going sometimes. Yeah. There's no government support. There's probably negative government support. Obviously, we're all concerned about what's happening, but at the same time, I think a lot of us are just having to just carry on in the best way we can. We've had like 4 prohibitions, I think, 4 little sections of time that we can't sell alcohol. Thankfully, we can still export, and most of us are very export driven, so that's been fine. But look, it's one of those things. We're all in the same boat. We just hope that it kind of sorts its crap out soon. And I mean, we're in this crazy wave now, which is kind of interesting, actually.
Yeah.
Obviously, all the travel bans weren't very good for us, but it sounds like they're getting lifted, which is good.
Only because everybody else already has it, man.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's always going to happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm no epidemiologist or by any means a doctor or a scientist, but by the sounds of things, this wave is going to be one of the best things to happen in a funny way. I know lots of people have it at the moment, this Omicron variant, and
really,
one day bad, and that's basically it. So, as I said, I'm not here for health advice. But, I'm hoping this is the beginning of the end, to be honest. I'm very optimistic about it. But look, it is what it is. We all carry on. I just hope sanity prevails, right?
Yeah, no, I hear you. I think hopefully when all of this subsides, we'll have a chance to entertain you over here in Ontario at some point.
Definitely. I just spent 2 weeks in not California, in the US actually. And
okay.
I got there. I snuck in one day before the ban.
Right.
And yeah.
And how did that feel being in the US as the news was breaking about South Africans and Omicron?
We're pretty used to South Africa being in the news these days,
right.
With regards to COVID. It was great. I mean, just carrying on from what you were saying, like it was so good you do these Zoom things all the time, and I've done a ton of them, but it was just so great to like converse face to face. thankful for Zoom because it's, it kept us all in contact, but it was very refreshing to chat about wine to someone in the flesh.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Well,
so
despite all of that, it's
hopefully.
a real pleasure chatting with you today over the wonders of Zoom, and really enjoyed these wines. Thoroughly enjoyed them. Thank you very much, and hopefully we can catch up again in the flesh at some point in the near, not too distant future. Mick Craven, stay safe out there.
Legend. Thanks, Jamie. I really appreciate it.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Cheers, man.